Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Animaking 3. And I'm back with part 2 of What If Naruto Was the First Tail Beast to Ever Exist. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also, guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels if you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice. Yes, I indeed have 4 other channels. All the links will be down in the description, so go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Animaking family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And don't forget to comment down below and tell me if you're new, because I'll be replying and talking back to all of you. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode? Let's begin now, guys. So, a bit of a recap from the last part that we left off. Something very great was taking place. Within the land, a battle that would decide the fate of the entire world was currently taking place between a mother and her children. Kaguya Osusuke faced off against Hamura and Hagoromo Osusuke. Their battle was literally chaotic. It was destructive. It was going to decide everything. However, it seems like too much exposure of the chakra. Something happened to Kaguya. The two sons were confused as they watched their mother, in agony and in pain. Something had been placed, literally bonded with Kaguya a very long time ago. It didn't matter if she was sacrificed to the tree or not. It was fused to her very essence, a very powerful beast that could not be killed, so they had to trap it away, as they used the weaker members, which Kaguya was, according to her clan, as vessels. So yes, she was trapped with a monster, and it was being released. She tried to fight it, she tried to knock it back, but it was just too strong, and she could not stop it. It ripped itself out of her, regaining its balance back. On the planet, it landed. Kaguya quickly jumped towards her son's side. They had to stop their fight because not just the fate of the world but the entire universe was in jeopardy right now. They had to stop this beast of epic proportion. As the monster moved so fast and severed Kaguya's arm, they were truly shocked by its speed. It was truly incredible. It started to take shape. As it had no features, it mimicked Hagoromo's look. As they battled, their battle dragged on for a long time until Kaguya made the ultimate sacrifice. She held the monster and made her sons seal her away. Her sons thought that she had changed, but they couldn't be any further away from the truth. Kaguya had released a being known as Zetsu, as he was target to bring her back. Yes, he knew everything with the knowledge that he has. He would manipulate history and time, and that he did. For thousands of years, he manipulated everything and everyone, so that he would get to bring his mother back. He did everything in the name of bringing his mother back. Thousands have died because of him over history. Thousands upon thousands. Until the day finally came, when Kaguya was brought out of her slumber. She was shocked. Zetsu had undone the seal, she thought, but she was wrong. That is when she came face to face with a monster. It was tearing itself apart. Kaguya was shocked and confused on how it was even doing that. Somehow it was able to regain consciousness, and it broke the seal. It broke itself apart in order to escape, having no physical form to seal away. just energy particles. Kaguya tried to get out as well, but she failed to do so. As she was pushed back within the seal, she cursed, as that beast was now set loose on the planet. Unfortunately though, the beast could not that easily reform, so it tried to locate the strongest source, which it did. A young boy was currently cursing at some people, as someone was being taken away from him. A young girl, her name was Rika. He shouted and shouted before he was knocked out. When the boy came to, the being merged with him. This was no normal boy. He had a beast inside of him known as the Nine Tails. His parents' chakra was also sealed inside of him. The young boy was known as Naruto Uzumaki, as he ran away from his village a long time ago. He proceeded to rip the bars apart before shredding everyone inside of this place to pieces. He was also able to read the leader's mind by simply diving into his head. He had no idea where these abilities or powers came from, but they took Rika away from him. So he headed off until he arrived towards a place where they were auctioning the females off. He came in with a vengeance as he proceeded to slaughter hundreds in his wake. He ripped and tore them apart before he was burnt, as all of them come together and release a fire type jutsu upon him. However, when he emerged, he released flames. Black flames had started to eat everything, as his skin was completely unblemished. He had no idea what happened to him, but his strength was incredible. He arrived outside and slaughtered all the guards and saved the closest person in this world to him. Despite his bloody state, Rika grabbed onto him and hugged him. We then skipped towards the hidden leaf. Heroes and Saratobi had been trying to find the boy for some time now, but the boy had run away from his home, and he went off the grid. Not even their spy master could locate him. Heroes in fear that meant the boy was no longer amongst the living, as every time he gazed up towards the photo of Minato Namikaze, it felt like the photo was judging him for being unable to protect his son, for being unable to complete the wish that he was given by the couple before they died, and he felt grievous sad about that. We then skipped back towards Naruto, as he was looking down towards a sleeping Rika. He found her some time ago. In a flashback, it shows that there was a few people from her village that wanted to burn her. They say that she was cursed, and it was right. Everywhere she went, there was always destruction. People always died around her. The last straw was when an entire group of children died, and they came for her. Yes, they came for her, and they tried to end her life, but Naruto arrived. He saved her. He jumped right in the fire. It burned his legs badly, but he did not care as he held her up. She was shocked that someone would do this for her. The look in his eyes, a protective look, as they called her a monster, same like how they used to call him, but he wouldn't allow it anymore. They were able to scare them off before taking off to the woods. That was a few years ago, and they've been together ever since, getting odd jobs here and there to support themselves. Naruto has been going by the name Menma and changing his disguise, as he knew that Konoha was probably looking for him, but he wasn't going to go back there. However, as he ended up falling asleep in a tree, Naruto found himself face to face with a strange monster. A monster that made him look like a simple speck of dust as it towered over him. So yeah guys, basically as left off, you guys can switch across the place, check out for yourself. So to begin this new episode, it felt like a dream, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a dream. It was odd and confusing. The young boy stood there. His blonde hair was blowing in the wind, as his eyes focused on the thing that was in front of him. Their size comparison was on such a drastic scale it was frightening. He perhaps looked like a speck of dust that could not even be properly seen from that height. The monster that stood on whatever this place was, it was colossal. That was the only word to describe it. Its features were some that he's never come across ever before. Its body was a dark, muddy color. It had 2 arms and 2 legs. It was positioned in a way so it could stand upright and also move like some kind of dog or fox. But it was mostly standing upright. It had a tail, a long tail with spikes, black spikes all over it, just like what happened to his chains. Its arms were thick and muscular. Its body had patches on it, followed by spikes that seemed to be enlarging as it walked. Naruto watched as the thing reached down towards him. It opened its mouth. One of his teeth was at least 100 times his size, maybe even more. He did not feel afraid though, for some reason. He had no idea why. That is when he saw the monster neck. It started to bulge. Its eyes were unusual. All Naruto could see was a reflection of himself. There was nothing in the eyes, just emptiness. Pitch black emptiness. Everything should at least have some semblance of control over themselves, but this. Naruto's eyes widened as the thing released what was being gathered in its throat. He wasn't sure what the power was. It wasn't fire. The attack slammed down on him like a tidal wave as Naruto found himself in mid-air, blinking several times as he watched the beast from a higher advantage. Despite how far he was now, the beast's height was still so close to him. Naruto watched as the thing kept on roaring into the earth. Naruto looked around. The ground was very brown, almost like pure dirt and mud. That is when he saw something. It was a sky. Naruto was utterly shocked. What's going on? Naruto was looking at 3 moons. This shouldn't be possible. The earth only had 1 moon. When since there was 2 other that he did not know about? Confusion swept through him. That is when what seemed to be magma exploded out of the earth. Naruto watched as the entire place started to leak magma. He noticed someone. He tried to will himself to go down, but he could not. He was stuck. But it wasn't one. Naruto noticed there were several people. All of them. They had white hair. Their eyes were closed. Their bodies were either mutilated or destroyed. Some still intact, but huge gaping holes, arms were ripped off. As one of them was still alive though. The person was trying to get back up. As Naruto saw their eyes. He remembered seeing those eyes back at Konoha. What was their name again? He couldn't recall, but it was those strange white eyes. He thought those people were blind, but apparently they were not. He watched as a person rush forward as their eyes changed, turning into a strange ripple pattern. Horns coming out of their skull. However, before they could reach, the entire place erupted. Naruto was shocked as a blast, unlike any he ever seen, went off. He watched as the entire place exploded like a nuclear bomb had dropped. And this was because of that monster. As the place was ripping apart, the thing changed. Its body seemed to shrink in on itself. Its back rumbled and twisted as wings. Large wings popped out of it. It took off into the sky. It then started to wreak havoc by just screaming. Its scream alone was further demolishing the entire place. The one person that was left alive was burned to nothingness, as the rest of the bodies were destroyed. The thing then looked up towards him as Naruto stepped back, as it flew straight towards him. Naruto jumped up, looking around. covered in sweat, as he was taking in deep breaths. "What the hell?" he said, gripping onto his chest. As he moved and fell right out of the tree, he hit his head as he was about to curse, but he barely felt anything. Pulling himself up, he looked over. Rika was still asleep. Naruto was covered in sweat as he proceeded to take off his shirt. What the hell was that? He thought to himself. He brought a hand up to wipe his face when suddenly Naruto freaked the hell out as he almost collapsed over. Looking in the center of his palm was a strange eye. However, this was not pitch black. Instead, it had that strange ripple pattern just like the one that he saw. The hand started to move on its own. Naruto gripped it with his other hand, trying to stop it. However, it pulled him towards a nearby tree. His hand latched onto it. Naruto tried to pull his arm off, but he paused when leaf started to fall down on him. That is when something unusual happened. Naruto looked up as he saw every single leaf that was on the tree falling. He stood there, stopped pulling his hand when he saw the branches withering down. It was like all the life was being sucked out of them. Naruto finally pried his arm off, but it was a bit too late for the tree. The simple force that he used to take his hand off the tree had broke the bark because it got so fragile and so weak. As Naruto looked at it with a shock look written all over his face, he was afraid to even look in his palm. However, when he turned it over, there was nothing there. Naruto was freaking out, greatly so. He didn't sleep that night. Strangely enough, he didn't even feel that tired, which was weird. Time skip. She stepped out as the wind blew through her hair. As she looked around, rubbing her eyes, she immediately noticed that something was wrong, as her gray eyes took in the scene ahead of her. When she noticed what she was looking at, to be more precise, she saw a very thorny, broken tree in front of her. She looked down as she saw indentation in the ground. She started to call his name. Naruto! Naruto! However, she heard something as she looked out to see someone heading her way. It was him. But something was different. As Naruto came to a stop, he seemed to have been jogging. He finally came to a stop nearby her. As he smiled, seeing her awake. "You're awake," he said, as he seemed happy to see her. She stepped forward without saying anything, as she looked at him closely. "What's different?" she said, as she couldn't put her finger on it, but something was not right. Before he could say anything, she lifted the top half of his mouth, exposing his teeth, looking at them. She then pulled his eyelid down. As she took a step back, she was really inquisitive on these things. She noticed two differences. His blue eyes were much darker blue, and his teeth, they seemed to bulge out slightly than before, giving his face a different shape. He looked more older. It's almost like the fat in his face was gone as well. The baby fat. After all, they were still 11 years old, despite some of the horrors that they went through already. They weren't able to speak about what happened because the whole thing was just stressful, and she was exhausted. "I'm fine," said Naruto. "You must be hungry. I brought you something. There's a town nearby." As he brought her breakfast. However, it was just one serving. "Where's yours?" "Oh, I already eat." "Do not lie to me," she said. "Where's yours?" "I'm not lying," he said. "I'm fine, I already eat." "Open your mouth," she said. There was a reason why she was behaving this way. In the past, when they were out alone, they struggled to get work. Therefore, they had no money. Sometimes they were really hungry. And Naruto would sacrifice everything for her. Yes, starve himself to make sure that she eat. It wasn't until months that she found out that they were that lacking even after doing certain jobs. Because of their age, people tend to overlook them and try to pay them less, believing that there was nothing that they could do about it if they feel so. She found out after watching him to see that he only consumed water and allowed her to eat. She always hated that. He cared about her so much he saved her life on numerous occasions. She always believed that she was not doing enough, yes. She take parts in the jobs, but still, she should do more. They were a team. She didn't want him to go to bed hungry if she was going to bed with her stomach full. So she was quite insistent on knowing if he eat or not, because he tended to keep that away from her, just to protect her. And she didn't like that. She hated that he was suffering for her cause. Naruto released a breath. Fine. I lied. She sent him a glare. I told you to stop doing that, she said. Now come on. We're splitting this. No, really. I'm not hungry, he said. What? She said, looking at him. Before you get angry, just calm down and listen to me, he said. She looked at him quizzically. We haven't had a chance to talk about what happened. That doesn't matter, she said. It doesn't matter what you had to do. You came to help me. As far as I'm concerned, they got what they deserve. After what they did to you and me, she said. And what they were planning on doing. But you saved me, as you said that you would, she said with a smile on her face. Well, I will never break my promise to you, said Naruto, but that's not it. He held his hand out as a chain. A black chain emerged from his palm. Whoa, what's that, she said, looking at him. I'm not sure, said Naruto as he looked at it. Sit down and let's talk, he said. Naruto then told her everything that happened, as she looked at him quizzically throughout the whole conversation. Wait, so you're saying that you exploded and came back together as a new person? That's what it feels like, said Naruto. You said to yourself I look different. My eyes are getting darker. And my dream, I'm not sure if it's a dream or a memory, as Naruto told her. She looked rather fearful. She was worried. Don't worry, he said, as he pumped his chest. As you can see, I'm completely fine. Not a scratch on me. But I am different now, he said. And I'm not sure what all of that entails. She walked over. It doesn't matter, she said. I'll be here every step of the way to help you. And that's my promise, she said to him, mimicking what he said. A promise of a lifetime, making Naruto smile. In these little moments, they could be happy. Time skip. Rika had no idea why. It didn't happen. She didn't know why it didn't happen. Ever since she knew, whenever she was in danger, whatever was wrong with her always caused damage for anything that tried to harm her. Same for when she first met Naruto, and she made that avalanche to stop the villager from harming him. They say that she was cursed, but over the years, that curse had been something to help her. It never truly attacked or bothered Naruto. While most people saw her as a monster, he never saw her as such, and he was always fine. However, that night where she was taken, she thought something would have happened, but it did not. She knew that she wasn't as talented. She wasn't as strong and she wasn't as fast, but she wanted to be. But she had something inside of her, but she just had no idea how exactly she could bring it out. She just did not know. Time skip. A man was currently nervous. Yes, he was nervous. Really nervous. It has been over 1 month and a half since Naruto and Rika was almost kidnapped, which led to a massacre where countless were ripped apart, torn to shreds. Surprisingly, a few had survived, those who had been buried on the rubble, and they recalled everything that they saw. The man in question, his name was Natsu. Natsu was the one that was setting Naruto and Rika up for jobs. Yes, the better pay came with more difficult jobs, where they had to help bandits, move supplies, carry even bodies away. As they were willing to do that, Naruto wanted to do it by himself, but Rika said that she was strong enough to do this. As she stood by his side, she wouldn't allow him alone to go through the burden. That is why, for such young kids, they have been through a lot. However, Natsu got an offer he couldn't afford to pass up. So he sold the kids out. Yes, he sold them out to Amado. Amado was the brother of Gato, a very powerful man as well. But that was only one of the reasons why Natsu was panicking. After hearing the information about what happened at that place, that the young boy had ripped everyone apart, that he turned into a demon of some sorts, Natsu was worried. He was afraid that Gato would come after him, believing that he was involved in getting his brother dead, because they knew each other. Also, he was worried that Naruto would come after him as well. He never knew that things would turn this way. So here he was. There was no point of gaining such money if he would be too dead to use it. So he used that money to hire help. At all times he had bandits, trained ninjas surrounding him. If he had hired a few S-rank, that would have sapped all of his supply. But he did hire one high-ranking ninja though. The others, their payments were a lot more low, as they were his constant backup 24/7. So he would be attacked on two fronts. That is why Natsu was so worried as he tapped his finger on his dex, feeling paranoid that someone was watching him. Until, boom! There was an explosion outside that drew his attention. Natsu snapped his gaze towards that area. Immediately, his guards arrived surrounding him. "Check it out," Natsu said. "Now!" As two of them made their way. However, as they were reaching towards the exit, the wall to the left was broke open. Two bodies were thrown with such force that they broke through solid stone. Natsu's eyes widened in fright. Immediately, blades, ranging from katana to short blades, were drawn, pointing towards the boy. As Naruto was standing there, 4 chains coming out of his back. Naruto's gaze focused on Natsu. Natsu then noticed arms wrapped around Naruto's torso. Someone was on his back. Rika pushed her head up as she brought one of her arms up and pulled out the kunai. She launched it in the room. As it exploded, it had a paper tag attached to it. Rika was securely holding on to Naruto, as she was more protected than anyone else. The chains provide an extra set of security, and another chain without spike wrapped around her securely. They were able to get a good deal on buying a roll of explosives. As she threw 2 more, scattering the crowd, Natsu tried to run. Yes, as he was climbing a makeshift ladder that was nearby, trying to get to the higher floor, but Naruto sent this chain out like a rope and used it to swing up there as he landed. Naruto's gaze fixated on him. "You sold us out." "Now, hold on. It's not what you think," Natsu said. "Enough of your lies. After everything we've done for you, you sold us out like that, leaving us for dead. Well, as you can see, karma's a bitch." "Now listen, enough talking," Rika shouted. "We're not here to talk," as she threw down 4 other paper bombs, causing utter chaos down below. While those guys were large in number, they were not good in quality. Natsu started to back away until Naruto ducked as a beam of lightning slammed where his head once was. A shocked look was on his face. He was more so shocked that he was able to dodge that technique. Well. It seems like you were right. I thought you were just a buffoon. Well, a rich buffoon that was paranoid, but This kid is something after all. A voice spoke up. Standing at the entrance was a man. He had seen Naruto coming. However, he waited to see if the kid was truly worth his time. His name was Reiga, a former member of the 7 ninja swordsmen, dressed in a black vest with a white wrapping underneath that came down towards his elbows, grey pants, white bandage on his legs, and sandals. He had 2 blades in his hand, 2 powerful blades, known as the Kiba blades. The blades were very electric, going off his nature lightning as well. You could tell that he was one dangerous shinobi. "Where the hell have you been?" Natsu shouted. "He could have killed me." I had to see if he was worth my time, and I think he is. I believe that he's deserving of a proper burial. That was Reiga's thing. He liked to bury people, mostly alive. He wasn't able to say anything else though, as he had to move as Naruto chains smashed into the wall. He smirked as he dashed forward, blitzing towards Naruto in seconds. He brought both of the blades down, however, Naruto's chain deflected and blocked them. The chain moving extremely fast. However, Reiga was faster. He had the advantage. He was an actual trained ninja. Naruto released 3 more chains, doubling the numbers with more. As he started to clash with Reiga, but the man was blocking all of them. Rika saw her opportunity as she tied another explosive note towards the kunai. She waited and thrust it. To her surprise though, the man spun and knocked it away as he threw the blade towards her. She ducked her head, but Naruto deflected though. Realizing that he was not dealing with your average shinobi here, he shot 2 more chains towards the ceiling. They pulled him up as Naruto flipped and landed on the next side. However, Reiga was gone. Naruto shot his gaze around trying to find him. "Above you," Reiga announced himself, as he did not just go for the kill. Naruto chain blocked it, but Reiga vanished in mid-air. He reappeared behind Naruto and kicked, but he pulled his leg back before he could reach. Naruto's gaze kept on moving around. Was he toying with him, Naruto thought. Naruto ducked once again when he heard Rika shouted, "Behind you!" He spun around, only to see a bolt of lightning. His chain shot outwards, but he was then zapped right in the side. Something then slammed right into him. He crashed on the ground. He made sure that Rika wasn't harmed, but the moment he moved, a bolt of lightning, shaped like a serpent, crashed into his chest, causing him to release a scream. His chain slackened. As Rika was thrown back, she crashed hard as well. Naruto was lying there, as he was covered in bruises and burn marks as well. "You're a good kid," Reiga said. "I have to admit to you, I was pushing it quite a bit to keep out of your sight. Your eyes are pretty fast, but I guess you're nowhere near to your potential just yet. It's a shame that I'm gonna have to snuff that out. Leave him alone." He glanced up to see Rika as she was holding on to a kunai with an unlit explosive on the bottom. He smirked before he vanished as its fist planted in her gut. "Stay down, child," he said as she collapsed to her knees. He deflected Naruto's chains that came at him. He smirked. "Even while this badly bruised and damaged, you're still able to move. I must give you praises for that. I wonder, should I spare your life so that you might return and give me a proper funeral in the end? Perhaps you're the one that is destined to bury me. Or perhaps this is my calling, for me to keep on getting stronger, to bury stronger foes." He kept on babbling to himself, when suddenly, Rika was grabbed. It was one of the guys that survived earlier. Some of the others were his friends, and he watched all of them being blown apart. He gripped her around the neck as he held her She tried to fight him off, but he pressed a kunai against her throat. "Stay still, you little bitch," he shouted. "Do you have any idea how much man you just blow to pieces? I should just slit your throat right here and now." He glanced up. Natsu had found it a good idea not to run, believing that he had everything under control. And besides, if a threat was after his life, he wanted to see that threat with his eyes eliminated. "Kill them both," he said. "No," said Naruto. "Don't you dare. I'll kill you." Riga was still talking to himself as a nameless thug for hire started to press the kunai closer to her cheek. "I'm gonna enjoy this for what you did." He pulled it back. "No!" Naruto shouted as he jumped, only for Riga to slam his elbow right into Naruto's back, crashing Naruto into the ground. As Naruto's gaze turned dark, a violent sensation spread through the entire place. However, he wasn't the only one affected by this. Rika, who was struggling to get free, found herself feeling an intense amount of pain. It felt like something was trying to split her skull open, as she kept on hearing screams, seeing visions that she couldn't comprehend. That is when she heard the thug behind her screamed out. He simply stopped moving, his arm went slack. Everyone was shocked, even Naruto, who was just about to lose his shit, paused in what he was doing. Even the psychotic Riga paused as well. Standing behind Rika was an abomination, a monster. Flashback. A couple years ago, Rika was crying as she watched the entire facility fell in the shadows of chaos, as she saw support beams collapse on some of the kids. Something stood over her. Something was smiling as it slashed the support beams, slashing all the ropes and all the steels as well, making them crash on the kids. Before that, they were making fun of her, mocking her and calling her a monster. But now she watches all of them were crushed. She looked up and she saw a monster. In the flashback, it was that same monster that stood behind her. It didn't have any legs. Its lower half was like a snake. Its upper half was muscular and large. However, its stomach area was rather slim. Its arms were muscular though. It had long black nails. It had a giant red glowing eye in the center of its hideous face. Its mouth was open in a curve, showing sharp razor teeth as it was smiling down towards Rika. It then looked up as its gaze focused on Naruto. Its smile vanished, but it wasn't a look of hate. It was just a strange look, focused directly on Naruto. Intensely, its one red eye was focusing on the boy. That is when its gaze turned towards Riga. It moved with a speed that was impossible to track, as it seemed to vanish, or perhaps it was just that fast. Riga turned, but he screamed in pain as his left side was ripped open by the thing's claws. He jumped back, holding on to the wound. Sending a huge amount of current into his blade, he shot it forward. However, the creature opened its mouth and swallowed it. Its nails then turned blue. It slashed at the ear, releasing a slashing motion that slashes space between them. Riga jumped away only for his leg to be severed, as he felt a current tore through his flesh. He dropped to the ground in agony. It flew towards him, and before he could move, it tore his left arm completely off. It then started to gut him from the inside. It ripped him limb from limb, pieces to pieces. The sight was gory and disgusting. Rika was shaking. This was her first time fully seeing the monster in this form. All this time, she knew that she was cursed, but this was not at all what she was expecting. Rika was now a stain on the ground, torn limb from limb, pieces to pieces. Only small chunks was remaining. The monster then turned back towards Naruto, who stood in front of Rika. Protectively, it started to move towards Rika as Naruto held his hands out. "I won't let you touch her," he said. The thing tilted its head, looking confused. It raised its bony, pointy finger hand and placed the hand right where a human heart was supposed to be. It then pointed towards him and then pointed towards Rika. They were both confused. It seems like it meant them no harm. It flew directly through Naruto like a ghost and flew straight back into Rika. Rika spasmed slightly as Naruto grabbed her. However, she was fine. "I'm alright," she said, looking at him. That is when they heard running. Naruto turned his gaze as Natsu was trying to run away. "No, you don't!" Naruto held his hand out, but to his surprise, lightning shoot from his fingertips and destroy the wall, shocking Natsu. He decided to run the other way. Rika didn't know why, as she felt something strange. She thrust her hands out as her nails fired like some kind of projectile. The five of them, they slammed into Natsu's legs as they released an electric discharge that literally paralyzed him from the waist down. To her shock, her nails regrew in a matter of seconds. As Naruto looked towards her, surprised. "We'll talk about it later," she said. He nodded. Naruto bent his knees and jumped. He landed on the top balcony. Rika performed the same feat as well, which was rather shocking as she jumped to the top floor. As Naruto looked at her, but they decided to focus on the main threat right now. "Please, don't do this. I'll give you anything." They looked at each other. "Really? Anything?" they asked. "Yes, I'll give you money. I have money here if you want it. Just don't kill me," he said, begging for his life. "Fine. Where's the money?" "It's in the safe. It's below, underground. There's a small lift that can carry you there." Naruto turned his gaze. It happened once again. He could see directly through the wall, beyond it. As Naruto looked down when he saw it, he's right. There is something underground. As the both of them looked down towards him, Naruto chains wrapped around his neck. I told you where the money was," he struggled to speak. "We didn't say that we weren't going to kill you for what you did. We thought we could trust you, but you sold us out. We were never going to allow you to live," Rika said. She was rather angry for what he did. After all, they thought they could trust him. As Naruto kept on squeezing until the spikes of the chains bore into his throat. The man's face turned blue, blood leaking down his neck. The body was tossed by Naruto as he fell, right on top of his head. However, he was dead before he fell. The both of them looked towards each other. Despite performing such a gruesome act, they did not seem bothered by it. Being on the road for a couple of years showed them that this world was more corrupted than they could have ever imagined. They saw things that those things did not surprise them anymore. Not at all. They made their way. As Naruto proceeded to rip the ground open, tearing through steel with his chains. As they went underground, the lift brought them down. Upon arriving there, they found a lot. There was a lot of chests containing scrolls, but "Naruto, look!" Rika said to him. She found gold coins. Gold coins! And in a safe. When Naruto pried the lid off, he found cash. A whole bunch of it. We're rich, she shouted out as Naruto looked around, rather shocked by all of this. Time skip. Rika was carrying 2 duffel bags, while Naruto was holding up 5 chests in the air with his chains. When they came to a stop, Naruto picked up the Kiba blades. These aren't ordinary blades, he said. They're coming with us. As the both of them left the facility, after another rather destructive, chaotic slaughter. Time skip. A white-haired man was looking around as he witnessed all the destruction. His name was Jiraiya. Jiraiya of the Sannin. Hiruzen had reached out to him a couple years back when the boy had run away. Jiraiya had tried his best over the past few years to locate the child, but there has been nothing. There could only be 2 outcomes. The first one he hated, that the child was dead. But the second one, perhaps the child was smart enough to use a fake name and hide his appearance so they wouldn't be able to get anything on him. However, recently, he got some information about the brother of a very powerful man. While a mother was powerful as well, Gato was far more powerful. Yes, Gato, who pretended like he was a upstanding citizen with his shipping company, but many knew about his underground dealings. It turns out that his brother was ripped from pieces to pieces. There was a few thugs that were hiding. When they saw what happened and they ran, there was only a handful that survived. The other area, Jiraiya, was able to visit. There were some people that came in there. However, Jiraiya saw what happened. He saw there was many important people, many wealthy people there for underhanded means. However, there was one that survived, buried under the rubble. He explained what he saw. A blonde-haired boy, dark eyes, whisker marks on both of his cheeks. Naruto had blue eyes from what he remembered, but this could be the fox. He also heard about the chains as well, which made him think about Kushina, the only other person that possessed chakra chains. It had to be, right? Finally, after all these years, he had something to go on. So the Sannin followed that trail, only to come across another area. However, this was more better than the other. Yes, it turns out that one of them were pretty roughed up, 2 broken legs and a broken arm. Jiraiya interrogated him because the man refused to talk. Well, Jiraiya used his underhanded means by trapping him in the mouth of a toad and turning his comrade into a toad and then tickling him with a feather. The man then told him that the kid was here, yes. He goes by the name Menma. He's been here on multiple occasions. They were the contact service that Natsu used. Jiraiya was able to get information on this Natsu. He was a high-end broker that hired people for a difficult job and take a percentage. However, the kid came back rather furious. The man himself did not know what happened, but he figured that Natsu had sold them out. He was rather loyal because of the payment from Natsu, so he didn't want to speak. That was until the kid started to lose his shit and then started to break his limbs. So he told him everything on where Natsu was. And he heard about Natsu hiring hired guns. However, he wasn't alone, Jiraiya found out. He thought that he would make it on time, but when he arrived, all Jiraiya witnessed was once again destruction. Jiraiya was now afraid to find the boy. Everything that shows this boy has become a true monster. What if the Nine-Tails had fully taken over the child? Look at all the death and chaos. Limbs. Jiraiya stood over a body that he could not even recognize. The body was so disfigured and torn apart. It was a frightening sight. He steeled his nerves. Even if the fox took over, he would be able to stop it and try to return the boy back to normal. He had to find him, and he was so close. Jiraiya quickly made his way, hunting down the child to find him. Time skip. A couple months later, Rika dashed out from a tree branch with incredible speed. She had the twin Kiba blades in both of her hands. She swinged it, only for Naruto to twist. She then brought as she curved it upwards, but once again he evaded her. Her speed was far, far, far greater than before. She materialized behind him and swung as he ducked. He spun on his heel and kicked away her feet. Before he thrust his hand out, he did not even touch her, and her body was thrown back. She bounced across the ground a little bit hard. She stabbed the blade to stop herself, before she pumped chakra through it. Naruto looked down as the ground beneath him started to crack. He jumped as it exploded with lightning. Rika burst right through it, using the blades as a conduit in order to protect herself in a cylinder spear. She came barreling towards him. However, Naruto tilted on his heel before he raised his hand as he was about to chop her. However, she smirked. She tried to use the lightning to destroy the ground, to mess up his footing, but she overdid it. The attack came out rather violent, causing an explosion that threw her back as she crashed pretty hard. However, she immediately got to her feet, not caring about her own safety. She ran. Her face set to cry, thinking that she burst through the smoke. However, Naruto was unharmed. Just a few scratches. She checked him over. I'm okay, said Naruto. She started to apologize. She didn't mean to. However, he simply waved it off. This is exactly why they were doing this. Over the past few months, the first thing after getting back, Rika had changed a lot. So much. She had tried to contact that spirit, that monster that helped them, but she could not. She did not know how to. However, this was the first time it truly manifested in a way to physically harm someone. The first time she saw it, it was just a see-through thing, but now it gutted those guys and protected them. Not to mention, after returning back to her, she felt stronger than ever before. And this training was helping her strength rise. Naruto did not work well with blades, so he gave her the Kiba blades. She could manipulate lightning to a degree, and the blades helped extend that. However, her speed and strength were the greatest attributes that had extended. She was a lot stronger, and a lot faster as well. But it wasn't just her. Naruto was also improving. Given the fact that he just had a few scratches after that explosion, just to show how durable his body is becoming. And he's learning a lot more about himself, a lot more about the things that he can actually do. He was able to repel Rika with just his hands, a force that released from his body. But not only that, he could now summon the eyes in his palm. The only thing that they were capable of was draining the life essence of things around him. He had not tried on a living person, but he had tried on animals. And whenever he does it, he felt stronger. It seems like he absorbed that power. The eyes in his hands could also change color as well. He wondered if they represented powers, but he just did not know how to use them quite as yet. He was also changing in more ways as well. He was growing much faster, as he was a bit taller now, in just a couple of months. A bit more than he should be. His eyes were getting darker, as they were no longer fully blue. They were like tainted now. So yes, a lot has been happening. However, they have been having some good luck lately. Given all the money that they had, they were able to sell the gold coins and get a lot in return. They weren't people that were connected to villages. Not to mention, they didn't want to draw attention to themselves given Naruto's past. So opening a bank account was not something that they wanted to do. And besides, they needed papers and all that. However, they had someone working on fake documents that they could use. But at the moment, they had a place where they store everything that they had. It was quite protective, so there was nothing really much to worry about. The both of them headed towards a town that was nearby to get freshened up so they could go out and eat some dinner. Time skip. It's not like we're gonna be the lucky ones to find them. I mean, come on. The others have been searching for some time now, and no one has come across them. I'm starting to believe that we're actively avoiding each other somehow. How would that be possible? Well, unless they know about us. Two men were making their way. They were standard, as they were wearing large cloaks that covered their frame. They had brown hair, both of them. One had dark eye and one had brown eyes. They were looking for someone, as they were trying to find them for some while now. But they were not the only people that were looking for them. However, they were more close than anyone else. It's getting really late. Let's head back to the town. As they were heading back, suddenly they heard something. The both of them turned in the forest, starting to get freaked out by the noise. It must be some kind of animal. The brown eye one said, "Yeah, let's go." The dark eye one said. However, when they turned back around, the both of them released a high-pitched scream and ended up falling over on their butt in fear. Standing there was someone who scared the living daylights out of them. They could not physically see the person. Its body looked like a mass of gas and humanoid, and it was large. "Who are you?" The voice came out dark and demonic, scaring them. We're no ones," the dark eye one said. We were just passing through. Please don't kill us," the brown eye one said, as they started to beg for their life. That is when the gas seemed to come together. Stepping away from it was a boy. Blonde hair. He had dark eyes. They had a tinge of blue in them. He looked at the both of them as they noticed his features. "I thought you were someone else. Get out of here, now." They were surprised. It's you. We've been looking for..." The brown eye one was cut off as a chain tip was placed at his throat, drawing a little bit of blood. However, the other one spoke up. "Please, we don't mean you any harm. We just want to talk." He was stuttering like crazy. "I knew there was someone coming after us. Seems you guys were the ones I was tracking as well." "We promise we're not some enemy are here to fight you," the brown eye one said. We're actually here looking for you. You see, our leader has been looking for you for some time now. He needs your help." "My help? For what?" the child asks. "It's Gato. I'm sure you know who that is. You killed his brother. You remember, right?" "How do you know that?" "Well, word has spread. It said that Gato has put a bounty on your head and has been sending people after you. So we understand why you think we're the enemy, but we promise we're not. Our boss know that you're looking for Gato, but you can't find him, right?" "Do you know where he is?" "No, but our boss do. You see, Gato has been terrorizing our village for some time now, requiring payments. Our leader, he doesn't have a choice but to pay him or give him whatever he wants because he's taking his daughter. But he heard about you, so he sent a group of us out to try and locate you. We heard about how strong you were. You're probably the only one that can actually take him down. So he can give you everything that you need, including where Gato is, because he come on a regular basis, well, his man does, for information and supplies and goods. So that's why we're here. He's willing to pay you to get his daughter back and get rid of Gato. That's all. We're not lying. Oh, don't worry. I know you're not lying, the child said. If you were, I would have known. He stepped forward. Well, you're right about one thing. That bastard has been sending people after me and hiding within the shadows, and I can't seem to find him. The child proceeded to smirk, as some of his teeth was rather sharp, his dark eyes looking at them. Before we go, there's someone I gotta pick up, he said. The both of them nodded as Naruto turned his gaze toward the town nearby. Meanwhile, within that town, inside of a hotel room, it was Rika. She was now 13 years old. She had grown quite a bit. She had cut her hair a bit shorter, as it wasn't trailing down her back anymore. Her silver eyes as pronounced as ever. She was on the ground. She was meditating. A lot has happened over the past 2 years that passed by. Other than Gato coming after them, a lot more has happened. As Rika was focusing and meditating, as her eyes closed. When Rika opened her eyes, she was standing in a village that was utterly destroyed. She did not know it. However, she had been here more than once. She did not waste time as she ran towards the center of this village. Arriving there, she found it. The monster that was inside of her, that was a part of her. She could not stay here for too long every time she tried. She was always booted. But this time though, she was more focused than ever, and she wanted answers. Over the past 2 years, she has been getting closer and closer. It doesn't matter how strong she gets, it seems. Like her mind just wouldn't allow her to know the truth. She reached out towards the thing. I'm here. Tell me who you are. How are we connected? She said, trying to get some answers. The thing looked up, opening its one eye. It did not say anything, it simply looked at her. She moved closer only for her body to simply vanish. The monster was seated there, well, floating. As it started to think about something. Flashback. A man was walking. As he was looking around, there was nothing but destruction in the village that he was standing in as he tried to find any survivors. When he felt one, he ran as fast as he could. As he arrived, he threw the rubble and the broken piece of wood off the young girl. As he picked up the child in his arms, she seemed to be around 13 years old or 14. She had white hair and silver eyes. The man looked down towards her. His eyes was very prominent, showing a very powerful set of eyes known as the Rinnegan. Standing there was the myth and the legend to nowadays times, but back then he was very real. It was Hagoromo, the sage of six paths, and in his arms he was holding Rika. The thing shook its head, getting out of that memory, as it picked itself up and simply wandered off within the destruction of the village. Something was going on here. Something very big. Rika was back in the time of the Sage of Six Paths. But how was that possible? Rika cursed as she woke up. Once again she failed to understand what was going on. And what was that thing? She sighed as she snapped her gaze towards the door, but it opened to reveal it was Naruto. As the 13-year-old Naruto stood there, his dark eyes looked towards her. I finally have a clue on where that bastard is. Gato, she said. Naruto nodded. Come on, let's go get him, she said. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see next part and do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm off and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.